Vince
McMahon is wild.
Former WWE employee is suing Vince McMahon, claiming he abused and sexually exploited her.
Everything else involves multiple allegations of sexual assault.
This is not the first time he has faced serious accusations.
This has been a guy who's been mired in shit, like I say, for on and off for the last 35 years.
Filed by a former employee who says she endured psychological torture.
The lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Miss Grant.
Over the past 20 years, WWE chairman, now former chairman, Vince McMahon has not only had his fair share of controversy, but has also garnered a habit of involving big names in the promotion. Amid a disturbingly large list of allegations dating back to the early 90s, one of the most recent egregious accusations that McMahon has faced involves situations of human trafficking. One such big name that has come up with recent developments is Brock Lesnar. Lesnar's involvement might come as a surprise to many fans, but with the publicity of the current case, there are new reasons to look deeper into his past. Are there any indications to solidify his involvement with the current case? What could he have been accused of that has been hidden away? Who is he really? Brock was born Brock Edward Lesnar on July 12, 1977 in Webster, South Dakota. He was involved in organized wrestling starting in high school and spanning through college, where he was scouted to participate in the D1 Heavyweight Wrestling Championship. He was almost instantly successful and captured the top spot of heavyweight champ in 2000. Though his goal was getting into the NFL, the WWE noticed him first and offered him a massive contract for $250,000 to join development the same year. He accepted and started developmental work in OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, where he'd stay for 2 years. In 2002, Brock demanded entry to WWE's main Monday Night Raw roster or he'd walk. March 2002, he made his debut. Though Lesnar was an excellent image of a performer, he was famously lacking on the mic, which led to his on-screen partnership with Paul Heyman, who did all the talking for him. Despite being lacking in this department, he still shot to the top quickly and became the youngest undisputed champion in WWE at only 25 years old. Lesnar's career since then has been full of massive swings of success and failure, strained relationships both professionally and personally, and heaps of disturbing allegations. He suffered many injuries, substance and alcohol abuse issues, and habits of bouncing between promotions and concentrations between 2002 and 2016.
Torn both of my knees up, severe back pain, ribs, neck issues.
In the earlier years, Lesnar reported having been on the road nearly every day, reportedly about 300 days a year. Between 2002 to 2004, Lesnar fought a particularly grueling addiction to mixing vodka and Vicodin to deal with the stress of the schedule, which he says made him not remember much of what happened during those years.
2 years that I don't remember in my life.
Why don't you think you remember that period very well?
Vodka and pain pills.
He found temporary success in New Japan Pro Wrestling, became the IWGP Heavyweight Champion and UFC Champion, and spent a period of time playing for the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL, though he only played a few preseason games before his release leading up to the regular season. Even through the successes, there were many major struggles, and Lesnar found himself wound up in a number of deafening situations. Upon returning to the WWE in 2016 and being handed the title almost immediately, it was clear that relationships were odd, fragile, and suspicious. Lesnar's infamous relationship with McMahon in particular was recently brought into the public eye through the most recent accusation against McMahon. Digging further back reveals a long disturbing history of assaults in the same vein, which makes Lesnar's alleged involvement a lot more plausible. During Lesnar's time in developmental and OVW, there were a few stories that surfaced of Lesnar's behavior that are not very widely known. One particular relevant case involved Lesnar, Jim Cornette, who was the lead booker for OVW at the time, and Cornette's now wife Stacy, who performed under her ring name Synn. Kenny Bolin, a former manager with OVW, detailed a point with Wrestling Shoot interviews where Lesnar was accused of assaulting Synn on TV. He stated that there was a pre-planned spot involving Lesnar and Synn where he was supposed to pick her up and over his head. But the thing is, after Jim Cornette learned that this happened, he was furious. Furious enough to threaten to shoot Brock's kneecaps to end his career. But why would Jim be so furious about a normal wrestling move in a wrestling event?
Spot that calls for Brock to pick Stacy up over his head, throw her over the top rope, and Stacy said, "That's fine, but I just got my vagina pierced today and it's very sore."
Anyway, so he's telling Stacy all day, Synn all day, when I get you up there, I'm gonna squeeze it. I'm gonna fucking, and she's like, brother, don't do that.
Brock picks her up and not only touches the vagina, Brock put his finger in her vagina.
And he fucking clamps down and squeezes with his right hand.
After Synn had told Cornette what happened, he was understandably enraged and threatened to violently end Lesnar's wrestling career.
She tells me he's been saying he was going to do it all day, and he fucking did it. I asked him not to and to take care of my schnavitz, and he fucking didn't. And fuck this fucking guy. He's saying, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't mean to do it. I was just kidding, blah, blah, blah. And in the process, he says, fuck you to her in front of me.
Jimmy's furious. He tells him he's fired. Get the fuck out of here. You're done. You'll never work in the goddamn wrestling business again. Fuck you, you mother. And he's just giving it all to him.
I said, also, if you're going to fucking rib somebody and tell them all day you're going to do something, you better make goddamn sure you don't fucking do it. Because why would they believe that you didn't mean to do it when you've been telling them all day they were going to fucking do it? Right? So, I said, and thirdly, don't disrespect me by telling my girlfriend in front of me at the time, now my wife, fuck you, because then you brought me into it, and this is not business, this is personal.
And Brock said, what are you going to do? Whip my ass? Jimmy says, I'm going to shoot you in the goddamn kneecap. And let's see how goddamn good your wrestling career is once you don't have a knee. And then Brock apparently decided to go ahead and get in his car and leave.
So then he goes to fucking Danny Davis. He said, Jim said he was going to shoot me, blah, blah, blah. And Danny said, well, what the fuck do you think was going to fucking happen?
In another situation, during the Insurrection pay-per-view tour in London in 2002, Lesnar was accused by Terry Runnels of exposing himself to her backstage. Dustin Rhodes, Terry's ex-husband, had told her to let it lie, suggesting that this kind of behavior wasn't exactly uncommon and there was little to be done about it. Brock was, as is now clear looking back at WWE's recent history, their newest top star in 2002. Speaking up against him could have resulted in severe and unequal punishment like contract termination, which is exactly what happened to Curt Hennig, otherwise known as Mr. Perfect. During the events of the incredibly infamous plane ride from hell, a fight broke out between Lesnar and an incredibly drunk and obnoxious Hennig. Hennig sprayed shaving cream over a group of performers, one of which was Brock, who was furious. He attacked Hennig and they both started fighting within the cab of the plane. While they fought one another, they reportedly got too close to the emergency exit door for safety, enraging Vince McMahon. Interestingly though, Hennig's contract was terminated while Brock was let off with not much more than a slap on the wrist. In his book, he explains the story of how he met and eventually married former WWE performer Rena Marlette Greek, known in the ring as Sable. Paints a picture of a sort of detachment that he has, telling these stories confidently as if he is either oblivious to how disturbing and downright weird they are, or simply doesn't care. The passage, though apparently meant to be a sort of meet-cute story, reads more like a disturbing case of Lesnar stalking her until she agreed to marry him. He describes a fight between the two of them resulting in Rena flying back to Florida, where she was living at the time. However, this attempt to distance herself did not stop Lesnar from trying to get into contact with her. Lesnar's incessant calling had not gotten her attention, but rather than giving her space or respecting her privacy, he seems to assume that Rena's avoidance was a message or an invitation. A quote from the book reads, "By the time 2 weeks had gone by, I was beside myself. Rena wouldn't answer the phone, wouldn't return my calls. She was sending a message loud and clear. She wasn't playing hard to get. She was letting me know that she would devote her life to me, but I had to play by the rules with her." Lesnar proudly explains how he had violated her privacy to the point of not only flying on his own to Florida, but breaking into her home while she was out. She had been living in a gated community that he did not have the entry code for, which began another series of violative decisions. After taking a taxi to the residence, Lesnar details waiting with the taxi driver for over 30 minutes for another resident to get through the gate so that he could follow the car inside. There, he would contact a neighbor in an attempt to trick them into helping him break into her house. The attempt worked. A neighbor provided Brock with a screwdriver that he'd used to break in. He explains that the alarms went off, but he disabled them with a code. This one he appeared to know. Despite weeks of being avoided and all of Sable's attempts to distance herself from Brock, he ignored her hesitation and stayed in her home. Though he describes that she was furious at first, she had apparently accepted him and allowed him to stay. Eventually, he proposed and she said yes. The two of them have been married since 2006. All of this strange behavior makes the current standing accusation of his involvement with Vince McMahon's lawsuit more believable, and considering the nature of the case, disturbing when compared to how he has said he's treated his own wife.
These are some really graphic, kind of disturbing claims.
Brock Lesnar requesting a wee video.
What? A wee video.
Probably going to be the end of a lot of careers, and maybe Brock Lesnar.
This lawsuit goes beyond just allegations of sexual assault and abuse, which are absolutely horrific and terrible.
A lawsuit filed against McMahon earlier this year by former WWE employee Janel Grant outlines a deeply disturbing accusation. According to Grant and her lawsuit, she was in desperate need of a job following the death of her parents. Grant lived in the same building as Vince McMahon, leading to a meeting organized by the building's resident manager in hopes of giving Grant a chance at employment with the WWE. McMahon was allegedly quick to be very friendly toward Grant and showered her with gifts and special treatment following their meeting, where he had apparently tried to touch her and even smell her inappropriately. Grant's lawsuit states that she felt trapped within the strange relationship that McMahon had forced on her, where she was obligated to either start a physical sexual relationship with him or face being dropped and sent into financial trouble again. After being forced into the relationship to save her career with the WWE, McMahon started sharing explicit pictures and videos of her with other employees and talent without her permission, one of which was described in the lawsuit to be a world-famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion. Though he wasn't named in the suit originally, this athlete was later revealed to be Lesnar. Through 2021, while the assaults Grant described were ongoing, McMahon was also setting up an effort to get Lesnar to sign with the company once more. Apparently, Grant was used as a pawn for this effort, where McMahon tried to set up Grant with Lesnar not only to try and convince him to come back, but to satisfy a sick fantasy he had created of the two of them together. Grant was forced to create personalized content, pornographic content for Lesnar, which led to direct contact between them. In December of 2021, Lesnar was accused of urging Grant to meet with him, which ultimately didn't happen. Lesnar then allegedly requested a video of her urinating, which is only one of the sick accusations outlined throughout this ordeal. In March of 2022, McMahon tried trafficking her to Lesnar again, urging her to keep sending photos. Grant was threatened to keep quiet about everything, forced to sign NDA paperwork, and persuaded with money and the promise of moving higher up in the company. All things which are inhumane solutions for the trauma of sexual assault and trafficking. But they are things that the WWE and Vince McMahon have been accused of using in the past, using financial means or otherwise persuading people out of exposing dark secrets of the industry. Brock Lesnar has always been an incredibly popular figure, not just in WWE, but throughout the other promotions he's been a part of as well. There's a chance that this level of popularity and status was something that WWE was not willing to sacrifice in favor of punishing or even exposing some of the things that Lesnar has been accused of. With the public coverage of the Janel Grant lawsuit, many of these accounts are no longer hidden. So far, Brock Lesnar's involvement has resulted in a few kinds of punishment, such as the WWE giving him a very familiar erasure treatment. But there are a number of potential routes this lawsuit could take him. Because of the timing of the allegations coming to light, Brock's originally intended inclusion in the 2024 Royal Rumble in Tampa on January 27th was quietly canned. He would be replaced then by Braun Breaker. Similarly, a long-built tension and constructed storyline between Lesnar and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 40 was also dismissed.
Essentially, they've just slid Braun into his spot. So when Braun was eliminated by Dominic Mysterio, that was supposed to be Brock Lesnar. So I guess, as the story goes, according to Dave Meltzer, it was supposed to be Dominic Mysterio and Brock Lesnar at Elimination Chamber. and Gunther and Brock at WrestleMania, which has been a dream match that wrestling fans have wanted to see for a long time. But I don't know if we'll ever see it at this point.
In further attempts to scrub Brock from the public, WWE's publicists removed Brock from the highlight cover of WWE 2K24 video game, later replacing him with John Cena. He was also removed from the game as a playable character altogether. His image was erased from WWE's Supercard mobile game as well as the WWE video package intros. Interestingly, he was also removed from the roster page of the WWE website but quietly added back soon after. Because of the size and severity of the allegations against Lesnar, not to mention his undeniable influence and popularity, it begs the question of what the reception will be to his return, assuming he returns to the ring soon as a member of the roster. In a recent episode of the Wrestling Observer Live, host Brian Alvarez reported that his sources stated that there was talk of working toward a Brock Lesnar return to WWE TV.
There have been moves regarding Brock Lesnar, which, if you listened to the show last night with Dave, everything we talked about accurate other than the roster page. There are movements to bring him back. I'm not saying he's going to be back. I have no idea if he's going to be back. I wouldn't bring him back, but I can tell you that there have been inquiries made. And what that means, we will wait and see.
The company has had a history of dropping and picking up Lesnar over and over throughout the years, but supposedly, though the idea has been considered, there is no promise of seeing Lesnar on WWE TV anytime soon or even at all. Although the accusations against Lesnar are harsh and extreme, further heightened by the involvement with Vince McMahon, he has not yet been convicted officially of any particular crime. This, however, doesn't mean that he has not already faced consequences. Besides the erasure of his image from WWE's promotional content and his absence from TV performances, Lesnar's future with WWE and with the sports entertainment industry as a whole are widely uncertain. While once considered the next big thing, the biggest, most promising star of the sport, his image has already been disgraced by the public reaction to the stories told both about and even by him. Whether Lesnar will be charged or fined will come in due time, but for now, the public is left to wonder about the deeper character of a beloved and popular figure, and what else they might not know. If you enjoyed the video, well, you know what to do. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on so you know when we upload a new video. Please do it. Thank you for watching WorldSportsDocu.